I had a one teacher in the MBA that the course was, think of a startup that you want to start. And that startup that I thought of during that course ended up being my first company that I started, a mobile advertising company.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. Today I am with Noam Toister, CEO and co-founder of Bookaway.com, a ground and sea transportation platform, basically Booking.com for travel transportation. The company has recently raised a B round and acquired several of its competitors in order to grow during COVID. He started Bookaway after a bad travel experience in the Philippines during his honeymoon, and the company is now one of the leading travel transportation companies in the world. Noam Toister, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much for joining me. I'm excited to talk to you today all about travel and your own personal journey, which is very non-trivial and non-linear. Some people dream of becoming entrepreneurs growing up. I don't believe that was your dream growing up. Perhaps it is something that you facilitated more and more later on in your career and your journey. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your upbringing and how you found yourself today running a travel company before you were in the mobile ad space. And tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive deep into Bookaway.
Where doing business was in my consciousness, even like both my parents were teachers, and none of my brothers or anyone just went into entrepreneurship, and it kind of fell onto me when I was in the university. I was working in sales, and when you work in sales, you have to kind of are kind of weird if you don't think about how sales work and how business works, approaching people that never heard of you, convincing people to do stuff that they didn't necessarily intend to do when they met you, and thinking about what is value actually creation. What's the value for you as a seller? What's the value of a customer as a buyer? And that kind of pushed me into the marketing world, the business world. I was studying psychology in university. Basically, idea what I wanted to do, so I just went to psychology because it sounded very interesting and kind of deep. And while I was studying it, I was thinking that I was more and more attracted towards the behavioral aspects of sales, of business, social psychology, and did not go that direction. Being a researcher in psychology is not something I would do. Not my type of thing. But it was very interesting for me. And at some point during the first degree that I did, I actually decided I want to be a doctor, right? So I want to help people, and I want to do something that's very meaningful in life. And that didn't work out. So I finished my first degree. I applied to med school, and I passed a few interviews, and then I didn't pass the last interview. And at that point, I was sort of I was working in sales. I was asking myself, what should I do with the next year of my life?
So you find yourself doing an MBA, and what about entrepreneurship then draws you as you're transitioning, pretty radically your perception of what it is that you want to be doing?
To be honest, I had, and I don't think I ever told you, but I had a one teacher in the MBA that the course was, think of a startup that you want to start. And that startup that I thought of during that course ended up being my first company that I started, a mobile advertising company. And when the guy kind of talked about it, and we did dive into what it actually means to start a company and raising money and getting customers, then it suddenly sounds, it's not rocket science, right? I could do that. I looked around me and I said, I'm 20 something, 28, whatever. I don't have any kids. I don't have any commitments. If I'm going to do this, now is the time. And that's how it all started.
Incredible. Okay, so take me all the way to Bookaway. We'll skip over the mobile ads for now because there's so much that I want to talk about. With what you're doing with travel, you're backed by some of the best VCs around, particularly Aleph from both the Series A and Series B, I believe. And tell me a little bit about the inception, but also what you've learned during the process of building out Bookaway.
So Bookaways started when I was traveling in the Philippines, and I was on my honeymoon, and I was trying to get a bus ticket to a very famous tourist attraction, and it was simply impossible. And it wasted a whole day of my life just trying to get the ticket. And when I came back to Israel, I started a very, very simple site with just a Wix site that sold those tickets. And I had a travel agent in the Philippines that went to the bus station, bought the ticket, took a picture of it, and sent it by email to customers.
Incredible.
And that thing sold like hundreds of dollars in a week or something like that. And I duplicated that model to a couple of other countries just to see if it actually works the same way in different regions. And I realized it is the same in different countries, and that's a market. It's a real market with a real challenge. And that's
so
how
what was
we
the
started.
pain though? Why was it impossible for you to purchase the ticket on your own while you were there?
Because it's just not sold online. You have to go to the bus terminal, and getting to the bus terminal, if you've been to Manila, is a 2-hour taxi, traffic and everything. So you take a taxi there, you buy the ticket, you take a taxi back to your hotel because there's never a ticket on this for the same day. And that's after spending a couple of hours actually figuring out where the terminal is, because nobody knows. So it's ridiculous. And when you go to the bus is filled with tourists. They all did the same drill as you, and that's when I had a bulb lit around above my head.
Yeah.
But the thing that I learned, I think it's not like a wow moment. It's because I've had startups and I've had several ideas through the years, and I've tried many of them. And what I've learned is that you have to try something in a very simple way. And if it works, you see it. If it works, it just works. And it can't be confused. You can't be mistaken if something is working or not. If you're doing something and you're looking at the numbers and you're saying, that's okay, but not sure if that sold well or not, then it's not working. It has to be something that if you're doing, a very simple proof of concept, you see the conversion and you see the effect on the customers. Taking, I guess, and I know that someone else said that. I can't remember who said that, but if anything that you're selling, if there's no one that is willing to pay you something, if you even at the first time that he hears the idea, and if there's no one that you can find that will tell you, I will pay for that, then it's not a good idea. And a lot of the ideas that people mess around with is stuff that people say, that's cool, that could work. They don't say, I would pay you, take my money and shut up.
Exactly. Tell me a little bit more about how you did this proof of concept, because I think that's just such a cool story of building a website and then having somebody on the ground go and fulfill those orders.
On the proof of concept, I just contacted a local travel agent. It happened to be Israeli, so it was easier. But in different countries, I contacted local travel agents, and I just emailed them. I Googled and I looked into TripAdvisor forums, and people say, how do you book the ticket from Hanoi to Halong Bay? And then someone says, that guy has the best vans in the city, go buy it from him. And then I emailed that guy and I told him, listen, I have this site, I want to send you customers, do you mind? And he said, and most of them ignore you. Some of them answer and say, yeah, sure. Well, why not? And it worked. And, we became kind of very significant partners for a lot of our operators.
Take me a little bit fast forward to today. What is the vision of Bookaway today? You've raised your Series B. I believe $42 million raised so far. What is sort of the vision of Bookaway, and where are you at today with this vision?
So we raised 46 so far. Series B was $35 million. Bookaway is basically going to be the booking.com of transportation. We want to be the one place that brings this very fragmented inventory online and aggregates everything across the board. Whether you want to book a bus, a ferry, a train, or even a private transfer, a car with a driver to take you when you're traveling abroad. Also domestic travelers. We want to be the go-to platform for that.
Mm-hmm. And as you're thinking about the space, because obviously it's a pretty congested space in terms of different players that are playing there, whether you have transportation aggregators or hospitality aggregators or review sites, how does Bookaway fit into this space now? And what do you see as the key differentiator there?
So it's not a very condensed space at the moment at all. You have specific market leaders, players in specific regions. So you have a company that's leading UK market or the European market, or a company that's leading the US market. And then you have very regional competitors. You have a company that's, the biggest company in Vietnam, or the company that's the biggest company in Malaysia. But you don't have global players there. You don't have a booking.com, or if you want to take it to the, I guess, activities industry, if you know that market, a Get Your Guide or TripAdvisor of that market. Right. There is no sort of gorilla in the market yet, and there is room to be one. So that market is going to be consolidated, and we are on track to be that company that leads the market. And so if you're looking, obviously this past year, travel has decreased tremendously. And what did you have to do then as the leader to adjust to this new reality that you were confronted with over the last year and a half? So it was a very hard time for us at Bookaway, because when COVID started, we were on really on track. We were doing X3 year over year in sales. Everything was going great, and then COVID hit, and at first everyone thought, that's gone, this thing's going away in a couple of months. Yep. Nothing to worry about. And being in travel, we saw the impact quite quickly. We saw the numbers reduced by 20-30% in February, which was really early, and we decided to do what it takes to survive that time. And we realized pretty soon that it's not going to end in a matter of 6 months. And we decided to reduce our workforce. Basically, we had to let go of almost half the company, which was a really hard moment for Bookaway. Wow. And because everything's going great. And at that time, by the way, it didn't seem, most people didn't get COVID as a life-changing event for the world. It was, a lot of people at that point said, this is just bullshit, right? And we let go of, we were one of the first companies, I think, in Israel that let go of a lot of employees. And about a month later, it was clear that we did the right decision, because our sales went down from 20% drop to 99% drop. Unbelievable. And at that time, we just decided to focus on the infrastructure, right? Focus on the basis of our business, getting more operators onto the platform, focusing on creating more useful content, getting SEO better, and so on. And after about 6 or 7 months, it was kind of clear that it's not even a 6 months event. It is a 2-3 year event. And at that point, we sat down and we had to say, okay, so we can't, what are we doing? You can't sort of work on nothing for 3 years, because when you work as a company and you want to see results, and there is no way to see results, but because there is no demand, it's very frustrating for everyone. It's not a way you can't manage it really. And we decided it was a point where we said either we're going to go to hibernation and come back, make everything as lean as possible and come back when sales recover, or we can look around and see if there's any opportunities. And knowing that all of our competitors would be in the same situation, we decided to reach out to different competitors in the market and see
it started as, how's it going? What are you doing? Let's see. Everything is shit. Let's help each other.
Right.
And it rolled into a funding round, in which we basically bought a couple of our competitors in the market, and basically we turned Bookaway into a group of brands that is now one of the biggest companies in ground transportation globally. And we kind of managed to convince a lot of other founders that by partnering we can create a much bigger company post COVID, and that the partnering has a positive synergy value, that we'll be able to work together, and that it will create a better company for them as well. And it's not trivial at all to convince different players in different regions in the market with different cultures to go and take that leap of faith.
Right.
And we've managed to do that. And we believe that post-COVID, we're going to be, on our track to being a, multi-billion-dollar company, because we're going to be the leaders in this market.
Incredible. I love it. And I love the thinking, as a leader, I can only imagine what it means to not just lay off, have the company, but then also to have to work on a product with very little feedback from customers, not really seeing the traction, and having to sort of figure out how to navigate through the situation. But it sounds like what you did is you just turned it upside down, acquired a few of the direct competitors, and joined forces for a Bookaway group, and now being one of the leading brands in booking travel. And I think that's just something really, really cool. Now, I'd love to take you back a little bit to yourself and understand you better. Coming in with this untraditional path, what really sparked your curiosity growing up? What is something that you were really fascinated by as you were growing up?
Okay, I have to disappoint you on that, because I wanted to be a pilot when I grew up. So I had the every kid's vision of dream of being a pilot in the Air Force, and then at some point my eyes went kind of bad, and I had glasses, and then you can't be a pilot. And that kind of changed my plans. And as a kid, I never kind of dreamt of doing what I'm doing now. I just know that, as an employee in when I worked for people, when I studied, I knew that I want to do something that is very, very diverse. I don't want to do something that is a very specific field. I want to do something that changes as I work, that gives me new challenges every once in a while, that makes me learn new things. And I knew that I get bored very quickly from things. Anything that I do for like more than a certain amount of time, I get it, and then I said I not interesting anymore. And running a startup is perfect for that. In hindsight, that's my perfect job, I guess, because being a CEO of a company is doing something completely different, more or less every 6 months. It's not like it's completely different skills and different schedule and everything.
I love it. I love it. And what are a few words that you would use to describe yourself?
I guess I like the word tenacious. I think that kind of describes well, my journey here, because I guess you can imagine that doing a travel startup in Israel, which doesn't have too many travel companies, selling to emerging markets that are not very obvious to investors in Israel, that are used to the US market, the EU market maybe. You get a lot of objections, a lot of no's, and you have to keep at it. And I think that that is what we do and what I've done. Another thing that I would like to think about myself as being very honest and straightforward person. I think that I'm very direct in what I want and what I believe in. Probably to the point that it hurts me sometimes in front of different stakeholders. but that's the way I am. Take it or leave it. We've managed so far to partner with investors that are great and that are appreciate that
Yes.
in their founders.
Right. And I think that just following the journey and the different lessons that you learned building at Bookaway, looking at travel during COVID and adapting to it, but and doing all that without coming from this entrepreneurial original background, and not living this as a life dream, but as sort of as this mission that you're on. And obviously you're doing it for a second time now very successfully. And so I think that's just an incredible journey, and I can't wait to use to use this myself. And I especially love the proof of concept that you did and how you took your own challenge through the honeymoon and translated that into a product which seems to have taken off and find product market fit very quickly, leading you to Bookaway. And so Noam, really thank you for taking the time to be here with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
Stay safe and stay healthy. And I look forward to using the platform.